In the last episode,
Fresh meat!
after a harrowing battle, we felled the foul butcher. We then freed the stranger, returning his sword to him so he could become whole once again.
I am Tyrael.
With justice renewed, we attend the funeral of our fallen comrade, Deckard Cain, as Leah says her goodbyes before we depart to the desert jewel of CALDEUM on the hunt for the witch Magda.
My friend, shall we depart to CALDEUM?
We arrive at the supposed desert jewel of CALDEUM some days later, just outside of the town in the BAZAAR. However, things seem more bleak than we remember. As we pass through the shop fronts, a general malaise hangs in the air and the wind howls unforgivingly. In the northeast of the makeshift shop fronts, we see our old friend Hadric, true to his word, and joining us for our crusade. On a platform overlooking the city, there stands Leah and the Archangel Tyrael. Approaching them, Leah says,
"Here we are, CALDEUM, Jewel of the East. Uncle Deckard loved this place."
He wouldn't now that it is under the spell of Belial, Lord of Lies. I can smell his stench on the air.
You two try to find out where Belial is, while I hunt down Magda. Your uncle will be avenged, Leah.
As the two depart on their mission, we head to the northwestern side of the platform for a better look at the city. There we see a woman dressed in bright garbs and first mistake her for a Vajeri mage and then realize she must be nobility of the area.
I have never been outside the city my entire life. I have never even been outside the palace. When they threw us out here, I thought I would die. I was terrified. But now, look at this view. I have never understood how large the world actually was. It is beautiful.
We leave the woman to stand in awe of the city, but all those statements done has spawned a flurry of questions. Why wouldn't she leave the city, and who threw her out? We know that the only way we're going to find answers is if we head into CALDEUM itself. Once entering the CALDEUM Bazaar, we see that the ostentatious decorations and extravagant design work still remain, yet a grim atmosphere hangs in the air. To our right, we see some poor, disheveled refugees, some badly beaten and their clothes in tatters. Next to them, we find a guard and promptly inquire, why have they been displaced?
Guard, where do these refugees come from?
I am not a god. I am a Shira, commander of the Iron Wolves. We saved these refugees from Magda's coven, that even now wreaks havoc throughout the borderlands.
I am hunting Magda. Do you know where she's going?
She's heading toward Alcarnus, but has blocked the road behind her. However, there is another way, through the Kasim outpost.
For long-time fans of the Diablo series, it's pretty surprising to come across a Shira wearing some desert garb that is adorned with gold. It's a far cry from how we remember her back in the Kurast docks, sporting some skimpy undergarments, a snake, and not much else. Plus, her build is rather lithe these days. I guess Alcor isn't around to help supply her with a weekly potion of manliness.
Oh, Ashira's a good customer. She buys a portion of manliness from me every week.
All of these people have fled from the cultists in Alcarnus. They are refugees far from their homes.
Why can't they enter the city?
The Imperial Guard lets no one in. These people are sentenced to a slow death.
We can somewhat understand if a city or palace was under attack that the first poor people to be displaced would be refugees, but the nobility have been locked out as well. And what of your Iron Wolves, Ashira?
The Iron Wolves were mercenaries until we helped the Zakarum priests find the successor to the first Emperor Hakan. We became the Emperor's personal guard after that, but everything changed a few months ago when the first refugees began arriving. An Imperial Guard was created to protect the citizens from the refugees, while we were out in the desert fighting the Coven and their demon spawn. Eventually, they took over.
So the appointed guards of the Emperor face Magda's coven in the desert, and their reward is they return to CALDEUM to be replaced. A stone's throw away, we hear the refugees discussing the current plight.
Have you heard? Emperor Hakan threw his entire court out of the city. They're trapped out here with the rest of us.
There is some justice in this world after all.
Justice? They're a load of pompous fools. But even they don't deserve what's coming tonight.
What happens tonight?
They're wearing jewels worth more than any of us see in a year. And they have to sleep sometime.
Gods, what a terrible fate that seems inevitable. The higher class being tossed down with the so-called rabble. The two classes left to their own devices are going to no doubt create a new synthesis. But we fear, like the Coven's rituals, the outcome will be born of blood. It seems like we have no time to waste in the city. It's then just north we see by the fountain is Leah and the Archangel Tyrael. Approaching her, she says,
Tyrael and I learned that while the Iron Wolves were fighting Magda in the desert, the Emperor replaced them with Imperial guards who bar all from the inner city.
I suspect that the Iron Wolves were sent out to die. Belial has made his move. We must find a way into the city.
As a child, I explored CALDEUM while Uncle Deckard studied here. I can get in through the sewers.
Good. Learn what you can, while I hunt Magda.
Be careful. Alcarnus sounds like Magda's trap.
Belial's already infiltrated the city so heavily, I'm afraid we might be too late. We then head northeast and out of the city gates.
This gate leads to Alcarnus. You'll need to follow the long road over the canyon bridge and through the Qasim outpost. We haven't heard anything from the Iron Wolves in the desert. If you make it to the Qasim outpost, seek out Captain David.
We agree to his terms to seek out Captain David if we make it through the barren, sundered canyon to the Qasim outpost on our way to hunt Magda in Alcarnus. As we move east down the path and the rocky ridges, we happen by a curiosity. A porcelain-skinned woman in very scant attire is standing in our path. She beckons to us and warns.
Take heed, traveler. Cultists guard these desert roads, and they will slay any who pass.
That's excellent. I have some questions for these cultists.
You mean to kill them, do you not? I shall come along.
Before we can accept, the Enchantress joins our party.
There are illusions out there. Mirages to some. But I can see them for what they are. The Coven's foul magic. They will lead you to your death.
Oh, I've dealt with this coven before.
Although we welcome any help or aid in the fight against evil, we cannot help but be slightly suspicious of this Enchantress. Clearly not from these lands, just by the look of her, and also a master of illusions. We don't know much about the schools of Magicka, but would that not be a favoured school for the Lord of Lies himself? Heading through an outpost, the walls seem to crumble in on us, and the local sand wasp greets us in force, as we read about in our journal.
I would rather not discuss the sand wasp. These overgrown insects wouldn't be notable whatsoever if not for their exceptionally poisonous stings, which, alas, killed my young apprentice. I thought he would be more careful when I sent him to retrieve a sample from the hive, but his parents did not understand my perspective.
We see etched in the rock wall what we can only assume is one of their porous hives and start to question the validity of Abd al-Azir's expedition for his poor apprentice. Further along in the canyon, we find a dead iron wolf, and the avalanches become more frequent and happen upon a gravely injured man who then warns,
Stay back! They're in the rocks!
The man, unfortunately, was crushed soon thereafter. And we check on our journal once more, as these panther people seem to be behind the avalanches.
The Lakuni, or panther men as they are sometimes called, have inhabited the desert wastes east of CALDEUM for thousands of years. The large males are the tribe's leaders and protectors, while the agile females are expert hunters. Mostly they are primitive and reclusive creatures, although they will attack if cornered or hungry.
have not cornered the Panther people, and they seemed more vicious than hungry. Maybe they're in league with the Coven itself. At the northeast of the canyon, we find a dead end and no way out, as the Enchantress warns.
Be careful. They are very near to us.
Are they?
You should never have come. Demons will feast on your bones.
Although we successfully repel the Coven's ambush, we must know how the Enchantress predicted the attack.
How did you know about the ambush?
I am an Enchantress. The ways of magic and illusion are familiar to me. My name is Eirena.
And I am a Crusader. Nice to meet you, Eirena. Why are you out here?
Well, I am also looking for someone. But here, let me clear the way for you.
Dispatching the Coven, the Enchantress dispels the illusion, and we see before us Iron Wolves.
Captain, from behind!
Protect the people! Iron Wolves!
We dispatch the various Lacunian demons of their assault and turn to the Iron Wolf Jarulf, who thanks.
If not for you, the Lacuni would have eaten well this day.
Are there more Lacuni on the road to Alcanus?
Even worse. Cultists are casting spells in 2 of their desert lairs to obscure the Black Canyon Bridge.
Let us head north to the Howling Plateau. The cultist magic seems to be emanating from there.
Bidding the Iron Wolves and refugees farewell so that they can return to the safety of town, we do as the Enchantress asks. It's not long after heading north, we then find the outpost leading into the Howling Pass. Inside, we contend with Lacuni and Fallen, which have joined them to fell us at its gate.
There is another illusion here. The cultists tried to hide their footsteps, but their spells are weak and easily countered. If we follow these prints, we can find their lairs and halt the rituals. I will seek out any other traces of their magic.
So that's why they left a force to guard the gate. The Enchantress then shows a path of footprints leading down to the southeast. More Fallen try and block our path, yet are unsuccessful. The Enchantress, seeing through the illusion, detects more hidden tracks.
Look, more hidden footprints. This is one of the cultist lairs. They are casting part of the illusion inside.
We then cautiously step inside this secret altar. On either side of the door lies blood-filled cauldrons bubbling away. Next to the door is a cage that looks broken and unused, but the secret altar is very much in use as a blue mace-wielding painmonger comes to greet our intrusion. Died as it lived, in pain. Just north we see some torture barrels and an altar with strange markings, and more painmongers file in, alerted to our presence. In the main room, we happen upon the Coven in the middle of an incantation. One of their mages flings fireballs to stop us, but his brethren are too focused on the ritual, which means that they must be transforming this poor sap into a demon. However, we break their incantation in the nick of time. Realizing that they're overwhelmed, they try and kill the prisoners, yet are thankfully unsuccessful.
This should remove part of the illusion.
With half of the illusion broken, we speak to the prisoners and they say,
Akarat bless you. I thought I was dead.
I'd lost all hope.
Getting closer to the sacrificial altar, we can't exactly tell what they were trying to either sacrifice or resurrect. But as always, blood and death are an integral part of their spells. We leave the vile secret altar and head back out into the open, and the Enchantress then finds more tracks.
Look, more hidden footprints.
Traveling considerable ways northwest, we keep finding the hidden footprints uncovered by the Enchantress's illusion, finally discovering the entrance to the hidden conclave.
This is one of the cultist lairs. They are casting part of the illusion inside.
How does the Enchantress know? And are we stepping into a trap?
Fresh!
At the almost identical conclave, we're greeted by a demonic voice and more pain mongers. Inside, another ritual is being held by the Coven as they try and convert another demon.
The ritual is disrupted! Kill!
There. That ought to dispel the Coven's magic. Let us go to the bridge.
They tortured my poor husband.
We will avenge him.
I owe you my life. Bless you.
No answers from those who we've saved. We're only left to speculate what this ritual would achieve. Perhaps all this death was just to hold the illusion in place. Upon surfacing from the wretched lair and topside once more, the Enchantress then asks a question we didn't expect.
Tell me, what shall you do when Magda is dead?
Her master Belial wants to invade Sanctuary. His brother Azmodan as well. I will kill them both, destroy their forces, and keep Sanctuary safe.
How curious. You must be the one I was meant to find here.
Enchantress seems to be taken with our response and believes she was meant to meet us. What we don't tell her or anybody else is that most Crusaders don't see the age of 30, and we don't arrogantly believe it's easy or somewhat feasible to just defeat primevals alone. However, we go towards our fate willingly, our heart full, knowing that we served the light the best we can, and as for as long as Akarat would permit. It's at the bottom of the ravine. We see that our path has been blocked. The Enchantress stops us to reveal her true nature.
I think it is time for you to know my true tale.
Before we hear her tale, we step onto the bridge. Curious at the illusion, we see the bridge there, but we cannot still step on it. So we head back to the Enchantress, and she reveals.
I am not from CALDEUM. I learned these spells 1,500 years ago. My sisters and I pledged our service to a man of great power. We called him the Prophet. He trained us and placed us in a magical slumber to awaken in this era. I am to prevent the Lords of Hell from invading.
I think you're dangerous. I like that. Come, join me.
The Enchantress, after revealing she's 1,500 years old and for some reason has been kept in stasis to follow us on our quest, then heads across the newly repaired bridge, and we join her to continue our hunt for Magda on the other side.
The Qasim outpost.